Welcome to Amazing Bible Scroll Stories, where ancient scrolls reveal timeless truths. Today we uncover the remarkable story of Gideon, a fearful man chosen by God for an extraordinary purpose. What if your greatest weakness became the very reason God chose you? What if your fear was not your limitation, but the beginning of your greatest calling? For 7 long years, Israel suffered under the cruel oppression of the Midianites. Whenever the crops grew, Midianite raiders swept across the land like a swarm of locusts. They stole food, livestock, and every harvest, leaving God's people with almost nothing. In their suffering, the people of Israel cried out to the Lord for mercy and deliverance. Far from the battlefield, a young farmer named Gideon worked quietly in hiding. Hidden inside a winepress, Gideon secretly threshed wheat to keep it safe from the Midianites. Every sound outside filled Gideon with fear that the enemy might discover him. But while Gideon hid in fear, heaven was already watching over him. Then an extraordinary visitor appeared beneath a great oak tree. It was the angel of the Lord, bringing a message straight from heaven. Startled, Gideon looked up at the radiant messenger standing before him. The air grew still as the presence of God filled that sacred place. Then the angel spoke words Gideon never expected to hear. "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Mighty warrior. Gideon could hardly believe those incredible words. While Gideon saw only weakness, God saw the courageous leader who would one day save Israel. The angel's words echoed in Gideon's heart, but questions still filled his mind. Looking at the heavenly messenger, Gideon asked, "If the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to Israel? Where are all the miracles our ancestors told us about?" He remembered the stories of God's mighty works, yet all he could see around him was suffering and oppression. The angel answered with purpose instead of condemnation. "Go in the strength you have. I am sending you to rescue Israel." Gideon looked at himself and saw only weakness. "My family is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house." But God measures people differently than the world does. Wanting to be certain that this message truly came from God, Gideon prepared an offering. He placed the meat and bread upon a large rock, just as the angel instructed. Then the angel touched the offering with the tip of his staff. Instantly, fire burst from the rock and completely consumed the sacrifice. Before Gideon could speak another word, the angel of the Lord disappeared from his sight. Even after witnessing this miracle, Gideon longed for complete assurance. That night, he placed a wool fleece upon the ground and prayed, "Lord, if you truly will save Israel through me, let the fleece be covered with dew while the ground around it remains dry." Morning came, and God answered exactly as Gideon had asked. Still seeking certainty, Gideon humbly prayed once more. The next morning, the fleece remained completely dry while the ground around it glistened with fresh morning dew. Now Gideon knew beyond every doubt that God had chosen him. Filled with new confidence, he sent messengers throughout Israel. 32,000 men answered the call and gathered for battle. But the Lord said to Gideon, "Your army is too large." The greatest lesson of faith was only beginning. God looked upon Gideon's army and said, "There are still too many men." If Israel won with such a large army, the people would believe they had saved themselves by their own strength. So Gideon sent home every soldier who was afraid. 22,000 men returned to their homes, leaving only 10,000 behind. Even then, the Lord said, "The army is still too large." God led Gideon and the remaining soldiers to a river, where he tested them by the way they drank water. Out of the 10,000 men, God chose only 300 to remain. That night, the Lord quietly led Gideon toward the Midianite camp. As Gideon listened from the shadows, he overheard a Midianite soldier describing a strange dream. The soldier said that the dream meant God had given Gideon victory over Midian. When Gideon heard those words, he bowed in worship, knowing that God had already gone before him. Returning to his men, Gideon gave each soldier a trumpet, an empty clay jar, and a burning torch hidden inside the jar. There were no mighty weapons for the opening attack. Silently, the 300 men surrounded the enormous Midianite camp under the cover of darkness. Everything depended upon obeying God's instructions. At Gideon's signal, 300 trumpets shattered the silence of the night. The soldiers smashed their clay jars, revealing blazing torches in every direction. Together they shouted, a sword for the Lord and for Gideon. Confusion instantly swept through the Midianite camp. Terrified and unable to recognize one another in the darkness, the Midianite soldiers turned their swords against each other before fleeing into the night. Without overwhelming numbers, God gave Israel a miraculous victory. As dawn broke over the battlefield, Gideon stood in humble gratitude, knowing that the victory belonged to the Lord alone. That day, Israel learned that faith and obedience can accomplish what human strength never could. Like Gideon, we may sometimes feel weak, ordinary, or unqualified. But God does not look at our limitations. He sees the purpose He has placed within us. When we trust Him completely, even impossible battles become opportunities for His power to be revealed. If God could use a fearful farmer and only 300 men to defeat a mighty army, imagine what He can do through a willing heart today. Thank you for watching Amazing Bible Scrolls Stories. If this story encouraged you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs hope. Until next time, keep trusting God, keep walking by faith, and remember that with God, nothing is impossible.